It's time for a new adventure. We've packed our bags and we've crossed the border from Johto into Kanto, and we're making it our home for the next little bit. We're going to be doing some challenge runs here in Fire Red, but please don't worry, the Johto series isn't going anywhere. We'll be coming back to that in a few weeks' time. In the interim though, we're going to make our home in Pallet Town. And the first Pokemon to run the challenge here in Fire Red is Walrein. As always, I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Squirtle with Spheal. The reason we replaced Squirtle is because out of the 3 starter types, Bulbasaur is the only one that can hit us for super effective damage, although as you'll see during the course of this run, we can also hit Bulbasaur for super effective damage, so the rival is a little bit more trivial than he possibly could be in later runs. And we called the rival triple exclamation mark because I thought keep the punctuation theme going, and we named our Spheal Steve. And now that we've obtained our starter Pokemon, we'll get the graphics up and we'll have a little look at Steve the Spheal. He's a sassy nature. He has 23 HP, 10 in attack, 11 in defense, 12 in the specials, 8 in speed, and his ability is Thick Fat. We're starting with 4 moves: Powder Snow, Growl, Defense Curl, and Water Gun. And interestingly enough, in Hoenn games, you do not start with Defense Curl, and Spheal can't learn it at all. A little bit of trivia there for you, but before we leave the lab, we have our first rival battle. We're going against Bulbasaur. He uses Tackle because he outspeeds, and it's just 2 hits with Powder Snow to knock it out. We grow to level 6, and we can make our way onwards, northwards, in the Kanto region. We're going up Route 2, and the first Pokemon we encounter is a Pidgey. It outspeeds us, but once again we one-shots that with Powder Snow. When we get to Viridian City, we go into the Pokemart and we become a courier for a little bit. We've got to earn our keep somehow in Pallet Town, so we'll return this package to Professor Oak, and we will get our Pokédex. And now that we've got the Pokédex, of course, we can start with the challenge proper. What I find amazing about doing challenge runs is every single region you do it in has a completely different experience, so I had to ostensibly relearn the game from scratch, because what I would do in the Johto runs wouldn't necessarily work here in Kanto. And one thing you may notice is we are going to be doing the gyms in a very funny order. We're going to be doing Brock, Misty and Surge as normal, and then we're going to be going all the way over to Fuchsia City and Koga, but there's a big chunk of storyline in the middle, and that's completely different to how we do our runs in Johto. So it's like learning the game over and over again. But before we get there, of course, we have to beat our first gym leader, Brock. We take care of the Light Years trainer in very good time, and now it's time to take on Brock, and unfortunately for him, he's 4 times weak to our water move, so this is going to be a very easy battle. We one-shot the Geodude, we grow to level 14, and then we one-shot the Onix as well. It does 2 HP's worth of damage with Bind, but that is nowhere near enough to get us even thinking about being knocked out. We get the Boulder Badge from Brock as well as TM39, which contains Rock Tomb, and then we can start heading east. On Route 3 we do get our running shoes from Professor Oak's aid, and here is where we're catching our first of only 3 HM friends. It's the return of a good old friend, it is Spearow. Now I didn't nickname this Spearow, but I will happily nickname them Kenya. If that's something all you lovely people want, let me know down in the comments below. And while you have a little think about that, we'll go into Mount Moon. In Mount Moon we are going to be battling youngster Josh. Now the reason I'm showing this battle is because we are going to learn one of the most important moves for us in this entire run. It's Body Slam, and we're going to be replacing Water Gun with that. Now that may seem a little bit counterintuitive, having 2 ice moves on our moveset. I wasn't too sure whether I wanted to keep Ice Ball on our learn set and run that with Defense Curl, or if I was going to go for Powder Snow and eventually Aurora Beam. So I thought keep both ice moves for now, because the water move isn't going to be useful between here and Misty's gym. However, the ice moves are going to be useful, and of course at the end of Misty's gym we get Water Pulse. But in the meantime, we've caught our second of 3 HM friends. It's Paris, and Paris is safely tucked away in our bag, and I think what I'm going to do for these runs is I'm going to try and run as many of our old familiar HM friends as possible to keep the band alive, although we do have a new member of the band coming up a little bit later on for this run. It's going to be Lapras that we get in Silph Co. Paris is going to be helping us out, by the way, with Cut and Flash. We have our Spearow for Fly, and then Lapras is going to be helping out with Surf and Strength. That's the current routing for the HM friends. It may change in the future. I'm still very new to this game. This is only my 2nd completed run on Fire Red in a very long time, but now we are in Cerulean City, and we have rival number 2 to deal with. We are going to start off with a Powder Snow on his Pidgeotto, but his Pidgeotto knows Sand Attack, and quite often leads with it, and this can be the undoing of so many battles. Combine that with Sleep Powder on the Bulbasaur and we have a very, very tough time in this battle. We get knocked out, but a couple of resets later we get on a much better run. We still get sand attacks, but Powder Snow hits and we freeze his Pidgeotto solid. I do a defense curl to buff our Ice Ball, and then we start rolling. We take care of the Pidgeotto, and Ice Ball does manage to hit the Bulbasaur as well as he hits us with Poison Powder. We miss against the Abra, but Abra cannot hit us. However, that poison damage is soon racking up. We're into the yellow as we finally take care of the Abra, and that just leaves Rattata. Rattata hits us with Quick Attack and we don't OHKO, we drop down to 2 HP, but we just about survive, and the first thing I'm going to do after this battle is get an antidote from my bag so that Steve does not faint in the interim. So we'll heal up our Steve and leg it back to the Pokemon Center before taking on Nugget Bridge. Nothing of great importance happened on Nugget Bridge, so we'll say hello to Bill, who is currently a Clefairy. Not quite sure how that happened, and I don't want to question it, but he comes out of the machine on the other side, back in his human form, and he gives us an SS ticket to keep our silence. He doesn't want people knowing his nefarious business, and with the SS ticket in hand, we are going to take on Misty's gym. Misty is a Water-type leader with a Staryu and a Starmie, and she is gym number 2. She leads with Staryu that uses Water Pulse against us. It doesn't do much damage at all, and Staryu starts to recover its health. Water Pulse again doesn't do much damage, and we're already onto the Starmie. Body Slam is coming in very, very handy here, as we hit it 3 times to knock it out. We grow to level 28 and we have defeated Misty. Now that was a very, very good time for my Misty split there. That was roughly 20 minutes quicker than my Misty split that I had in my practice run, so I was feeling very happy at this point. And to celebrate, we're going to teach some moves to our Spheal. Now, having the TM case really threw me. I was looking for a bag slot for ages here before remembering it's a key item. I decided in the end that Ice Ball was a little bit too unreliable, so we're going to teach Water Pulse in place of Ice Ball, and we're also going to teach Rock Tomb in place of Defense Curl. It's going to be nice having a little bit of physical coverage on our learn set, so Rock Tomb is just the job along with Body Slam, and with those successfully taught in the face of our Spheal, we can go into Vermilion City where the first thing we do is heal up. That seems to be an on-running theme in my Kanto runs. I heal far too much, and while we're in Vermilion City we'll say hello to another old friend, the chairman of the Pokemon fan club. He's out of sweets though and gives us a bike voucher instead. And now that we've done that, we can go on to the SSN, where we don't have much to do at all, apart from battle the rival yet again. It's another one of those games where the rival battles are all clumped together. This is our 3rd rival battle within half an hour, and then we're going to have a few gaps where we don't see the rival at all. We took care of the Pidgeotto with no issue at all, but we once again got sand attacked, and that means our moves have a higher chance of missing, and that was the undoing of us in this battle. I tried again, and it was roughly the same thing. We got sand attacked, Aurora Beam hit, and then we were on to the Ivysaur. We got sent to sleep this time and leech seeded, so I decided it was probably worth growing just 1 level. And the beauty of being aboard the SSN is there are trainers everywhere, so we just go into a random door and we encounter Fisherman Dale. He's got a pair of Goldeen and a Tentacool, and not a single one of them posed a problem at all. We knocked them all out, we grew to level 30, and then we can take on the rival once more. And I reckon it's just 1 level that was needed to make this battle go from very difficult to very easy. It starts off much better with Pidgeotto using Gust, and now at level 30 we knock out the Ivysaur in 1 hit as opposed to it being a 2-shot at level 29. Raticate deals a fair amount of damage to us, but not enough to cause us to panic at all as it gets knocked out with a pair of Aurora Beams. And then we do exactly the same against the Kadabra. Disable was just refusing to hit for him there, but we take those wins, and now we'll take a little look at the captain. He's feeling seasick, so we give him a little back rub, and he gives us HMO1. That is Cut, and Paris has already volunteered to be learning Cut for us, which is just as well because we are going to need it to get into our next gym. We cut down the tree outside of this obnoxious gym, we battle all the trainers, and then we pause the timer until we get the bins done. This gym puzzle is literally just RNG, so I have no issue at all pausing the timer until we've unlocked both of the gates. But now we're on to Lieutenant Surge, the 3rd gym leader and the 2nd one we're weak to, but unlike Brock, we don't have anything super effective against his Pokemon. His first 2 Pokemon were a breeze, but then we came to his big bulky Raichu, and we got paralysed. He started to double team, and we just could not get a hit on. He used a full heal to snap himself out of confusion, got a critical hit with Shockwave, and knocked us out with Quick Attack. A couple of resets later though, and we get on a much better run. We take a little bit of damage from Sonic Boom on the Voltorb, but we hit through Pikachu's double team, and we're back onto the Raichu. This time Raichu doesn't paralyse us and goes straight for the double team. We hit through it twice in a row to knock out the Raichu, and we get the Thunder Badge. And Steve is so happy that he just has to evolve into Celio. So we get a very nice buff to our base stats. We get TM34, which contains Shockwave, which we cannot learn. It's one of the very few Pokemon that doesn't seem to be able to learn Shockwave, and we can move on. Now here is where my routing will diverge from a lot of the more experienced runners. I am terrified of Rock Tunnel, so what we're going to do is we're going to chat to Professor Oak's aid, and we're going to go all the way through Diglett's Tunnel to Route 2. On Route 2 we can pick up Flash, and that will make Rock Tunnel an awful lot easier. Eventually I'm sure I'll learn the route through Rock Tunnel, but I have no sense of direction at all. Mount Silver and Victory Road in Johto are bad enough, so to take on Rock Tunnel without Flash would be a nightmare right now. So we'll teach Flash to Paris, and then we'll make our way back to Cerulean City. And with our bike voucher in hand, we can pick up the bike from the bike shop and cycle east towards Route 9. There are a couple of different routings you can do through Kanto. You can either go west down Cycling Road, or you can go east through Route 13 to 15. Now I decided to just go west this time. I'm not sure if it's the quicker of the routes. Let me know down in the comments below. Is Cycling Road quicker than going through the maze that is 13, 14 and 15? I've purposely avoided watching other challenge runners' routes for Fire Red Leaf Green because I knew I was going to be running it. And one of the big fun things about doing challenge runs is learning your own routing. So if I am doing anything that seems pretty daft, please do let me know, because this was all done on the fly. I had a look at the badge order from the speedruns and thought, right, how am I going to do it in this order? Because obviously a speedrun has a world record for beating the game, and I would assume that the speedrunners would sort of know which order the gyms are best to be done in. But here in Celadon City we have another bit of Rocket storyline to deal with. We are going in the game corner, and it took all of my self-control to not just spend an hour playing the slot machines here. We get the lift key from this grunt on the very bottom floor, and to save your eyes I have decided to skip all the trainers and all the rocket section with the spinny panels, because goodness me, playing it on full-time speed you get so dizzy. I actually had to look away from the screen a couple of times, and apparently in Generation 1 he doesn't automatically drop the lift key, so I got very lucky there. I'd have been stuck for a little while. But after taking the Jellyvator down to the bottom floor, we encounter Giovanni. We know of him from our Johto runs, but we've never met him in person, so it's a pleasure to finally put a face to the name Giovanni, and I am very happy with you because you have a lot of ground-type Pokemon, and when you're running a water-type Pokemon, that is just free experience. And the Kangaskhan got an attack drop as well, so it couldn't hurt as much either. We grow to level 39, and we decline the opportunity to learn Rest and Snore. I'm very happy with our current learn set, and with Giovanni all defeated, we grab the Silph Scope and we can make our way out of the game corner. It's now time to backtrack back to Lavender Town, where the first thing we do, of course, is a heal. And before ascending the Pokemon Tower, we're going to go down to the Route 12 gate and read some of the saddest dialogue in all of Pokemon history. This little girl has lost her Pokemon, and the TM she gives us is Return, the move, of course, that increases in power the more friendly your Pokemon is towards you. When I read that line, I did have to pause for a little bit on my first run, because that actually made me well up. I got so sad. It is really amazing how hard Pokemon can hit you at times, but we mustn't dwell on that. We have the Rivals Pokemon to take care of once more. This time we outsped the Pidgeotto, knocked it out in one. Ivysaur was no issue at all, and we are on to Gyarados. And this is where, if we were a physical attacker, the run would probably start to slow down quite significantly. He has two Pokemon with Intimidate. That means we have -2 attack on every single rival battle coming forward, and that for our physical attacking Pokemon is going to be so tricky. In this instance though, we're primarily a special attacker, and Celio had no issue at all getting through that rival battle, and we can ascend to the top of the tower where we meet a Marowak. This Marowak unfortunately has passed away, so we will help it go into the afterlife, and now we will take on Team Rocket. We'll tell them off for their nefarious ways, and at the very end we meet Mr. Fuji. He gives us the Pokéflute, which allows us to wake up the sleeping Snorlax, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to cycle all the way over to Cycling Road, and just before we go in there we're going to say hello to this lady hiding in her house on Route 16. She does not want to be discovered, apparently she's some kind of celebrity, but she gives us Fly, and in hindsight I could have picked up Fly on my first visit to Celadon City and saved about 10 seconds cycling between the two towns, but I'll know that for future runs, and we'll teach Fly to Kenya, and we'll make our way over towards the entrance of Cycling Road. We've got to wake up a very, very sleepy Snorlax here, because we need to be able to get down to Fuchsia City. We play the Pokéflute, Snorlax wakes up, and we use Aurora Beam. Its attack falls as it uses Snore. We use Water Pulse to confuse it. It hits itself in confusion, it hits itself again, and it knocks itself out. Why could I not have this kind of luck against Red Snorlax in Johto? That's all I was thinking on that Snorlax battle there. And with nothing of great significance happening at all in Cycling Road, we can enter the Fuchsia City Gym. Unlike in Generation 2, this gym is run by Koga, but before we battle Koga, we're going to take on Juggler Sean. He has a Drowsy and a Hypno. We take care of the Drowsy but get poisoned for our efforts, and this Hypno is very, very bulky. It takes 3 shots to knock it out and we are poisoned, but we grow to level 44, we defeat Juggler Sean, and at level 44 we evolve into Walrein. Walrein, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. All I know is that it is one of my all-time favourite Pokemon. It's a walrus, it's so adorable and it makes me so happy. But we now are going to test out our Walrein skills against Koga. He leads with a coughing and we decide to use Aurora Beam to knock it out in one shot. We grow to level 45 and out comes Muck. Muck is very bulky, so I decided to try and paralyse it. It didn't quite work. However, Muck is just bulking up. He uses a Hyper Potion and we just keep spamming Aurora Beam. We hit through his Minimize and we are on to the Coughing. Coughing goes down in one shot and his final Pokemon is a Wheezing. We knock that out in just 2 shots, but we do get poisoned because it's Kanto and we will inevitably get poisoned at least 5 or 6 times in every single run. But we have defeated Koga, we get TM06, which is toxic, and we do a cheeky little heal once more. Then we can enter the Safari Zone. Now this is one of the trickiest places for me because of my lack of sense of direction, so I had to get a little map up on my second screen to make sure that I was following the correct routes, because in here we pick up Silph from the person in the secret house at the very back of the Safari Zone, and then we have to pick up some gold teeth. And we're going to return these gold teeth to the Warden of the Safari Zone and get our next HM. So it's 2 HMs in quick succession here in Fuchsia City, and this one is Strength. At the moment we don't have a Pokemon to teach Strength to apart from Walrein, but we don't need Strength until much later on. However, we are going to replace Water Pulse with Surf. I'm genuinely surprised at how strong Surf is, seeing as it's a HM move, considering a lot of the other HMs are very, very lackluster. Surf is incredibly overpowered, so Walrein now has a very nice Water-type move on his learn set. And just in time too, because we are going to take a little trip over the ocean. We're going to fly over to Pallet Town and surf south, because Blaine is waiting for us and he lives on Cinnabar Island. Of course, the events of Generation 1 Kanto happened a few years before Generation 2 Kanto, so Cinnabar Island is up and running as it should be, and that makes me so happy because Cinnabar Island is my favourite place in all of Kanto. It's got such happy music, and Blaine has to be my favourite gym leader, especially in Let's Go, where he is the really, really fun quizmaster. But before we can even say hello to him, we have to get the key to unlock the door to his gym. So we get that in Cinnabar Mansion, and now we can take on the gym trainers. I decided to take on every single trainer in this gym because we needed a little bit of money, and also we're a water ice type Pokemon with thick fat, so this was just a lot of free experience. And now it is time to take on Blaine. We take care of his first 2 Pokemon with the greatest of ease. Rapidash goes down and that just leaves Arcanine. We use Surf against the Arcanine to one-shot it, and that was Blaine done in the blink of an eye. He gives us TM38, which we cannot learn, and then we say hello to Bill once more. We decline a trip to the Sevi Islands because if you say yes to that you get stuck and the run's over if you're trying to get a good time, and we will fly instead to Celadon City. In Celadon City the first thing we do is heal because that is really an on-running theme. We say hello to the Lech outside the gym, and then I just wanted to show you how much I struggle with my movement in Gen 3. The movement speed on the bike is ever so slightly different in Gen 3 as it was to Gen 2, and it just meant I kept getting concussion banging my head against the wall. Even being mildly concussed, Erika is no match for us. She's got 3 very low-leveled Pokemon compared to what we've been up against, and we take her out in one shot apiece. We get the Rainbow Badge from her, and we can move on to Saffron City. And in Saffron City, of course, we have the final bit of Rocket storyline to contend with. We are going to be taking on Silph, and we're going to be doing it the very short way. But first, of course, we've got to find Silph. My sense of direction is so bad. I get so lost in Kanto when it's so big. I think I might avoid doing Gen 4 runs for a little bit because it will just be half an hour of me stuck in Mount Coronet. But anyway, we do manage to navigate through Silph, and we bump into the rival once more. He's got a level 37 Pidgeot that goes down in one shot, and here comes Venusaur. We don't one-shot the Venusaur and we get poisoned, but a second Aurora Beam later and it gets knocked out, and here comes Gyarados. I've learned from my last rival battle and one-shot it with Aurora Beam, and out comes Growlithe. We use Surf against the Growlithe to take it down in one shot, and his final Pokemon is Alakazam. Alakazam is no match for us, another Surf knocks it out, and we have defeated the rival once more, and our reward for beating the rival this time is our final HM friend. It's Lapras. Now Lapras is going to be helping us out with Surf and Strength. Even though we're probably not going to be forgetting Surf anytime soon, I decided to teach both of them just to get into the habit of doing it. And with our 2 HMs taught onto Lapras, we can move on to Giovanni once more. I feel like this is one of those battles where a solo Pokemon challenge is an awful lot easier than going in with a full party, because we are very over-leveled for this point in the game, and when you combine that with the fact that we are part Water-type, this is a very trivial battle. We take care of his first 2 Pokemon very quickly, and out comes Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen is weak to our Surf, so we take her out in one shot, and here comes the Kangaskhan again. We get a lucky critical hit against the Kangaskhan to knock it out in one shot, and that is Team Rocket all defeated. We are done and dusted with the main plot line of this game for this challenge run, and that means we can focus on getting our badges and, of course, defeating the Elite Four. So talking of badges, we're going to go into Sabrina's gym, and I have been told that Sabrina in Generation 1 is notoriously difficult. However, I think she's had a little bit of a nerf with Generation 3. Splitting special into special attack and special defense really did not do her any favours. So we knock out her first 2 Pokemon with Surf, Venomoth goes down as well, we grow to level 53, Alakazam uses Psychic to deal a little bit of damage, but we one-shot with Surf to knock it out, and that means we have our 7th badge. The Marsh badge is going into our badge case, and we can make our way back to Viridian City. We're going back almost to where it all began to take on our 8th and final gym leader. And this is the big plot twist of the game. The gym leader happens to be no one other than Giovanni, the leader of the evil team being a gym leader. That wouldn't be in any new Pokemon game, would it? Anyway, we go through the gym doing the very quick routing of taking on just 2 trainers, and we are going to take on his 5 Pokemon. And in a nice bit of symmetry with our first gym battle, the first 2 Pokemon we take care of are 4 times weak to water. Nidoqueen is 2 times weak to water, so we knock it out. We do exactly the same against the Nidoqueen, and his final Pokemon is Dugtrio. Dugtrio is speedy, but we are speedier, we knock it out, and we have defeated Giovanni. That is him gone for the very final time, and he gives us TM26, which is Earthquake. Earthquake is one of my favourite TMs in all of the game. It is such a strong and reliable 100% accuracy move. So we'll say goodbye to Rock Tomb because we've not used that in a very long time, and we'll say hello to Earthquake. And it's at this point we're going to say goodbye to Body Slam and teach Return in place of it. I'm going to try and avoid using Return until the Elite Four in most of these challenge runs. Of course, there will be times where Return is the only way to quickly get through battles, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But now with all 8 badges in hand, we have a little bit of cleaning up left to do. I'm going to pick up some items, I'm going to pick up some TMs, and the first thing we're going to pick up is Ice Beam. So that means I've got to spend 80,000 Pokédollars to get 4,000 Pokécoins in order to get Ice Beam. One of the things that I really don't like about the first few generations is locking the good TMs behind the gambling mechanic. It just doesn't sit right with me, especially in these challenge runs where money is very tight, but we do have enough to afford Ice Beam. We teach it in place of Aurora Beam, and that is going to come in very handy. We're also going to use a PP up just to buff Ice Beam's PP up to 12 instead of 10, because the Elite Four is coming up very soon, and having an extra 2 PP there might just be the ticket between winning and losing some battles. And after picking up a couple of bits and bobs in the power plant as well, We are ready to move west. It's time to take on Victory Road, but we are going to get ambushed by the rival once more just before we enter Victory Road. This is the first battle we've had against a full team of 6, and he leads with Pidgeot. We outspeed and we knock it out. Out comes Rhyhorn, that gets knocked out in a single surf. Here comes Venusaur. Ice Beam is a very strong move, but Venusaur is incredibly bulky, and that means he does hit us with a Razor Leaf. We still have well over half HP as the Gyarados comes out. He uses Rain Dance, which could shoot himself in the foot because he has a Growlithe next, and that means that Surf is definitely going to knock it out in one shot. And the final Pokemon, of course, is Alakazam. Alakazam uses Calm Mind. He's trying to set up. Surf still does a lot of damage. Disable misses just like it did on the boat. And we have defeated rival triple exclamation mark for the very final time. With that all done and dusted, we make our way through Victory Road. And this Victory Road is incredibly frustrating. I'm really not a fan of strength puzzles, and I'm definitely not a fan of pushing boulders halfway across the map, but nothing of great importance happened in there, so we'll go straight into the Pokemon League, where we will heal up whether we need it or not, we'll buy our full restores, and now it's time to say thank you to our HM friends. We say thank you to Kenya, to Paris, and to Lapras. You've been a great help here in the Kanto region. Get some well-deserved rest, but it is Walrein's time to shine. It all comes down to this. Our first Elite Four member is Lorelei. She is an Ice-type trainer just like ourselves, and she leads with Dugong. And it's a battle of the aquatic mammals. Of course, the Elite Fours have a lot of full restores, so we have to knock out their teams twice in some instances, really. But we finally get through the Dugong, and out comes Cloyster. Cloyster is a PP drain because Cloyster has Protect, and there isn't really a reliable way of predicting when Protect is going to be used, so you just have to hope for the best. It also has Dive, which of course means we're losing PP that way as well, but we do eventually knock out the Cloyster and we can move on to Slowbro. This battle is one of the bulkiest battles we have been against. We get yawned by the Slowbro and get sent to sleep. Slowbro keeps trying to use Yawn before changing to Surf, and we are asleep for a few turns before finally knocking it out, but not before we get made drowsy once more. So we're asleep once more as Jinx comes out. She uses Attract just to rub salt into the wound. We barely get a hit in at all before she uses another Ice Punch. We do manage to take her down to half HP, but she keeps Ice Punching us and she sends us to sleep again. This battle was so frustrating. It was a very smooth ride between Surge and here. But Lorelei just had everything working in her favour, and I was sort of regretting forgetting Rock Tomb at this point because that would have made this battle an awful lot easier. However, we do eventually knock out the Jinx, but Lapras stalls us and we have no choice but to reset. A couple of resets later and we will try once more. We use Return against the Dugong as it uses Safeguard. Surf does very little damage, she uses her first full restore. We keep on using Return against the Dugong as it chips away a little bit with Surf, and here comes that pesky Cloyster. It uses Spikes, which is a useless move because we only have one Pokemon in our party, and here comes the Protect Shuffle. It hits twice in a row as we take it down into the red. She uses Dive, and unfortunately Earthquake doesn't work with Dive, but another Earthquake later and we've knocked it out and we are in a much better position. We get a lucky critical hit against the Slowbro as it uses Amnesia. It uses Surf and we don't get sent to sleep, and this is a much better stead for Jinx. Jinx, however, does give us a peck on the lips once more and uses Attract, and we are asleep. However, we wake up very quickly and we're on to Lapras with almost full HP. Earthquake does very little, so we swap to Return and that does just about the same. We just keep on spamming Return as she keeps on spamming Body Slam. We don't get paralysed and we defeat her with 69 HP remaining. Elite Four 1 done and dusted, let's move on to Bruno. Now I've been told that Bruno is very laughable in this generation. He leads with an Onix, which is great for me because we can knock that out in one shot. We grow to level 60 and here comes Hitmonchan. The Hitmons are very defensively bulky for some reason, so it's 2 shots on both of the Hitmons as Brick Break hits for quite a bit of damage, and here comes Machamp. Machamp's Cross Chop misses, thank goodness, because it doesn't have no guard yet. He uses Scary Face on turn 2 and full restores. The Citrus Berry made Surf a 3-shot on the first time, but on the second time he doesn't have a berry, so it's a 2-shot, and he finishes with Onix, which is no match for us whatsoever. We knock him out and we are on to our third of 4 Elite Four members. This one's Agatha, another new member of the Elite Four to me, and she is a Ghost-type trainer. She leads with Gengar, which has Levitate in this generation, and goodness me, that really did bite me in the bum, because if Gengar didn't have Levitate like in previous and later generations, we would not be up the creek without a paddle. I decided to reset after attempt number 1 because we were confused and Gengar had set up a bunch of double teams. And in this instance, it's far quicker to just take a reset than try and battle through all of that. A couple of resets later though, and we are on a much better battle against her. We knock out her Gengar, we knock out her Golbat, and we knock out her Arbok. We decline to learn Sheer Cold as here comes Gengar number 2. We use Ice Beam and get a lucky critical hit to knock it out, and her final Pokemon is Haunter. Haunter is trivial after that pair of Gengar, and we have defeated Agatha. The final Elite Four member awaits, and it's the return of an old friend. It's none other than Lance, the liar with the flyers. He's here to ruin our day once more. He leads with Gyarados just like he does in Generation 2. We get a critical hit on Ice Beam, but we don't quite knock it out, and that means it's going to be a 3 shots because he uses Full Restores. Bite does a little bit of damage in the interim, and here comes the Aerodactyl. I use Ice Beam against it to one-shot it, but Ancient Power did an awful lot of damage. Ice Beam makes light work of the Dragonair. Out comes Dragonair number 2. He actually has some pure Dragon types for once. And the last Pokemon is Dragonite. 4 times weak to our Ice type move. It goes down. We defeated Lance first time. And with that, we are champions of the Pokemon League. Or we would be if it wasn't for triple exclamation mark. He usurped us just like he had throughout this entire run. And now we are going to get our revenge on him. But of course he leads with Sand Attack, and that is incredibly frustrating for us, because that means we are now rolling the dice on every single one of our moves. I try and purposely pick moves with 100% accuracy, because that means we're not having to throw the dice. But of course Sand Attack does throw a little bit of RNG in there. We get some great RNG luck on this battle though, and we freeze the Venusaur and knock it out with Return. Here comes Alakazam. We use Surf against the Alakazam as he uses Reflect. We do miss our second Surf though, and that is the turning point of this battle. We were easily in control of this battle, but having that second Psychic hit us means we are down into the yellow. We get some phenomenal luck against this Gyarados though, and we managed to freeze it twice in very quick succession. However, this rival seems to have more full restores than I've had hot dinners. And those full restores in combination with our accuracy drop means that this battle was unwinnable on this attempt, but 1 reset later and we get a much better run because we don't get the accuracy drop from the Pidgeot. And goodness me, not having that accuracy drop changed the battle completely. Because if we're able to hit consistently every single turn, even if we're not doing that much damage, it means the battle is much more likely to go in our favour. We had a little bit of trouble against this Venusaur because we couldn't quite one-shot it. However, he kept wasting his full restores and we do eventually knock it out. The Sunlight is strong as the Alakazam comes out, and this is why I'm glad I have Ice Beam, because Ice Beam and Surf are equally as strong as each other, and we are on to the Gyarados. We use Ice Beam against the Gyarados, and once again it gets frozen solid. He uses yet another full restore to take it back up to full health as we are in the yellow. Thrash takes us deeper into the yellow and we have 53 HP to knock out this Arcanine. He has extreme speed to take us down to 18, but we knock it out in 1 shot and we are the champions of the Kanto region. Our first run is completed. The only thing left to do is chat to Professor Oak, go into the Hall of Fame and get our final time. Walrein's final time is 1 hour 32 minutes and 25 seconds. And that of course is our first ever time. So as a mere formality, we'll show the leaderboard with Walrein in top space. Will it stay there for the next challenge run? We'll find out together. But in the meantime, I'm going to say thank you all so much for watching. It has been a pleasure to be back. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you're enjoying the Kanto content. If you are, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. I have a Twitter at twitter.com/trainersquidgy. And until next time, I'll say thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon.